Hi guys, welcome to Drum Dog, and in today's lesson we are talking about the Bossa Nova. For those of you who don't know, the Bossa Nova is a Latin groove. Now, Latin drumming differs quite a lot from our standard kind of rock and funk drums in the sense that we're changing up what the snare drum is trying to achieve in our beat. So say in normal rock and funk drums, our snare drum is playing a backbeat on a 2/4 or a 3.5 time feel, but we've got this constant relationship from the snare, chat, 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 in one form or another. Whereas in Latin drums, we're completely rethinking how we're using that snare drum. Instead of sitting on a backbeat, our snare drum is going to join in with our other limbs to create a multi-percussive sound from the whole drum kit. Now, because of this change of approach and our rethinking how we're using that snare drum, this beat is going to be a hell of a challenge if Latin drumming is new to you. But first things first, let's just take a listen to it. So obviously that's a pretty challenging beat. There's a lot of stuff going on there, and especially up at that tempo, that's going to be difficult to grasp straight away. So with that in mind, we're going to go through this lesson breaking down the Bossa Nova into a few happy small stepping stones to build up to the full picture. So kicking off things here with our first simplified beat, we're going to bring the right hand down to the hi-hats instead of that ride cymbal, and we're just going to play straight eighth notes on the hats. Now under those eighth notes, we're really going to focus on this snare pattern here, playing a cross stick across the snare, and it's this snare pattern that really defines the Bossa Nova as what it is. Now our snare pattern is going to be playing this interesting little cross rhythm. We've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now obviously that sounds like a little bit of an abstract rhythm on its own, but honestly it's worth taking the time just to get used to that rhythm and get that memorized before we go any further. Now underneath that Bossa Nova snare pattern, our bass drum is just going to be locking down a solid pulse. So we're going to be playing 1 and 3 on the bass drum. So now we've got that snare pattern and that kick pattern happening, let's put them all together, still with those hi-hats tying them together on the eighth notes. And that's it. Simplified as that may be, that at its core is a Bossa Nova. But for those of you who've got that feeling comfortable and want to take it up just a little bit further and get it sounding that touch more authentic, let's push on to version number 2. Now for version number 2 here, we're going to add a couple bass drum notes. Now our bass drum in this beat is taking the role of holding the pulse down, so we don't want to take it away from that 1 and 3, but we're going to add in some leading notes before those beats. So our bass drum pattern is going to become 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Let's try that out. And then of course we're going to add our cross-stick Bossa Nova pattern on the top. Now with these extra bass drums, we've now got some snares crossing over with those leading bass drum notes that may cause you a little bit of a challenge. So as always, take him slow, work with the click, and slowly get a feel for where those kick and snares land on top of each other now. Okay, so now things are really starting to hot up and we're starting to feel that groove as it moves along. The next thing we're going to add in is starting to break away from that regular 8th note on the hi-hat. Now obviously that is going to take away a bit of a security blanket for us because it's those 8th notes that make it easier, and it's one thing that doesn't change throughout the whole beat. Now we're not going to go too crazy with this. All we're going to do is drop out a couple of notes. So instead of playing constant 8ths on the hat, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, we're going to go up to this slightly broken pattern which plays in groups of 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Now the challenge that this does immediately present is how this now moves through the Bossa Nova pattern. So it's really worth taking the time just to lock the two hands together with this. So that right hand playing that new broken pattern and the left hand playing our Bossa Nova cross stick groove. Once that new hi-hat pattern is bed in and feeling comfortable, let's add that bass drum underneath again. Now, if you've made it this far and that's feeling comfortable, well done to you, because honestly, this isn't easy stuff. This is one of those beats that, although it sounds easy if you don't pay much attention to it, as soon as you get into what's going on, it's actually super complicated. The good news is there is only one more step before we're up at that full Bossa Nova we heard at the beginning. And this step, while it adds a little challenge, isn't too crazy, so bear with me. So now this time we're going to be taking our right hand away from that hi-hat. We're still going to be playing the same pattern, but we're going to be playing it on the ride cymbal instead. So that's still that 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1. But now we've moved over to that ride cymbal, we have freed up the hi-hats for some stepping with the left foot. Now I know some of you are thinking, no, because this is now taking it to four-way coordination, but there is good news, because where we're stepping those hats ties in really well with the kick drum. So as you heard there, we're just stepping that hi-hat on beats 2 and 4, kind of like a backbeat. And this foot pattern that we end up with this kick, hat, kick, kick, hat, kick, kick, is called a samba foot pattern. Now we see this quite a lot in Latin drumming, so it's definitely worth just practicing that on its own, just with your 2 feet, to get that feeling really comfortable. Once that's feeling good, let's add those hands on top, still playing that same pattern as we did with the last one. Now with that extra hat stepping in there, this whole thing really ties together like clockwork and really makes the groove sound like it should. Now, while the Bossa Nova may not be something that we hear that often, you'll be surprised as a drummer how often you may be asked to play it. And you definitely don't want to be that guy that panics when asked. You want to be able to pull it out of the bag and play that beautiful bossa. Now, I find this a really fun groove, and just the way it ties together is super satisfying, and I hope you guys find it as much fun too. I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. If you're interested in more lessons and full-length lesson packs, don't forget to visit our website drum.dog, and we'll see you again soon.